Thank you for interest in our movie on laboratory-grown diamonds. Dusan and me work together with some interruptions as a research gemologist at Jewellery USA Group since 2002. We have a lot of freedom to do traveling, research and publishing with some good results. Let me remind us on these milestones with some notes. 2003 we published the first book on laboratory-grown diamonds, the only one on the trade. Same year we published idea of first CVT-grown diamonds brought by Dr. Linares from Apollo to us. The following year we did research and published results on type 2B and type 1 treatments of pink and blue diamonds, about to change color. In 2006 at GIT conference in Bangkok, we presented the first results on identification of the male lab-grown diamonds mixed with the other diamonds natural in jewelry. The following year, we published our second book, Laboratory-Grown Diamonds, in 2 languages, sold in 3,000 copies, sold out throughout the world. Our presence in all gemological conferences around the world and publishing results and research papers were very regular. We should say that we learn a lot by visiting many facilities like DTC Lab from Maidenhead in United Kingdom. 2013, Dusan from Analytical Gemology and Jewellery was the first lab to offer identification, not screening, for lab-grown diamonds, loose and mounted, for acceptable cost to the wholesalers. Since 2015, Branko Gems with the partners doing Mediterranean gem and jewelry conferences in different Mediterranean countries, and hopefully we'll go back to Greece this year. We started in Greece 2015 and now it's 2021. Since 2013, award-winning filmmaker Jason Cohn is making a documentary movie around the world, produced by Showtime, with Dusan as the main role about lab-grown diamonds. Movie is ready and will be released in 2021. In 2018, Dusan got USPTO patent how to separate natural from laboratory-grown diamonds for free in seconds. Since 2010, Branko Gems is helping industry in 17 countries on teaching appraisers, gemologists and retailers how to identify treatments, lab-grown diamonds and gemstones. Since 2018, Branko is issuing with the partners provenance reports on Argyle pink diamonds. And finally, in 2020, we published this book, 188 pages. It's selling very well and very well accepted in the trade. We have interest to publish in few different languages to translate. We will expand in this year and 2022 with 2 other editions on expanding on diamond treatments, color diamonds and instruments. We're very happy how the book is accepted, and we would like to offer you this movie with our guests, experts, co-authors in our 10 webinars. Enjoy lectures and hope to see you soon.
Wrote a book 6 months ago, or published it in October, and we did 10 webinars in 5 months, what is a great achievement, I think. And we brought you the experts from all part of the trade, 4 people who are growing diamonds and know how to do it, like Malay Hirani from India, Boris Ferguson from USA, CVD and HPHT, to manufacturers like Argodanza from Switzerland, or people who are wholesaling and selling these diamonds, like Tom Chatham from Chatham Created Diamonds, to people who are like me, gemologist, Sherry Hand from GKL, myself, Dusan. We talk about how to identify, how to look at the inclusions, fluorescence, cross-polarized filters. We touch on advanced instruments, of course. And we also organized last 2 trade-oriented. We want to include also people from the trade, like journalists like Albert Robinson from New Jewelry magazine. He was a moderator, webinar 9. Rob Bates, Don Scott, Lab Grown Diamond magazine. Mark Kulinan, Tanja Nizgretsky, who is selling online. And the last one was very special, from CVD factory to the market, because we opened our webinar. We went to the factory in New Jersey. We went to the diamond cutting factory in India. We went to a dealer from India, Shreyan Shah, who is selling these diamonds. So all these could be watched on our YouTube channel, Branko Gems and a G and J, and I encourage you to watch them. All 9 webinars except one on memorial diamonds that is not public. So people who help us for this book, beside Boris Fegelsson, Sherry Woodring, Melanie Harani, and Frank Ripka, who wrote chapters from 5 to 25 pages, believe it or not, are also people who review the book. Antoinette Matlin's best-selling Gem author was nice to read, together with Richard Drucker and Stuart Robertson from Guide magazine. They wrote a nice review in their online or in their Guide magazine. And Alberto Scarani, our friend from Merger Labs, will touch some of the instruments he is using in today's lecture, but he was reviewing the book. And dealers Nilesh Shesh from Nice Diamond, Tom Chatham, gave us these nice samples on the left for a cover of the book or to study. And we designed book in India. Godwin and Mumtaz Gonzalez and Nesha Popovic, our countryman, was promoting this book and responsible for these newsletters, collecting your names. We couldn't do it without gold, silver, and other sponsors, distributors. We pre-sold 500, 600 books before we even printed. We want to thank to Kim Hughes from NCJV Australia. Yesterday, we had a lot of people from Australia watching us. And Gail Brett Levine from NGA USA for be kind, trusting in me and Dushan to order book in advance, as well as Shirley Mitchell from JVA from England. They're distributors in Australia, England, and they're selling in America. We sell directly, brankogem.com, shop at books. So this is the book. Probably most of you got it. If you didn't, encourage you to get it, because it's for intermediate level, basic to intermediate. We want every jeweler, every gemologist, every appraiser, wholesaler, retailer to have this book. That's why we didn't want to make it too heavy with the science. We want really people to know how to use loop microscope, cross-polarized filters, fluorescence light, UV light, either regular or one that John Chapman is making, like a PL and jewelry inspector. And we touched on advanced, but we focused on intermediate level or classic instruments. Why? Because we wanted to leave something for the future. And this is complementary book. We plan it together, but we want to leave science and advanced for the next book that we wrote 80%. Yes, John? Because John is editor of the book and he is reviewing it with me. And we have technical reviewers, Dusan Simic and Miko Astrom. I'm very, very happy to have some very famous names like Dr. Alan Collins from King's College. He's retired now, but when I started to work in GA in 95, the first articles they gave me to read about diamonds when I was in German Dental Research Department was Alan Collins. Same with Dr. Zaitsev. He's a professor at University of New York. He wrote for us Bible on spectroscopy, Industrial Book of Diamonds with explanation of all spectra. We had Dr. Tajin Lu from NGTC, biggest lab in China, who talk about Chinese synthetic diamonds updates. They're making doublets now in China and in Asia. Of course, Thomas Henschwager, our friend, he is the only one speaker that I invite 2 times to my Mediterranean German Jewelry Conference that John is editor. He has talked about diamond spectroscopy, fluorescence imaging, a lot of spectroscopy that's been in June. And Dr. Victor Vins from Russia, we talk about diamond treatments, modern color enhancement technology, and I will cover new producers from Europe, India, Israel, Russia, USA. I will cover portable instruments in next lecture, what is April 8th. And I will cover case study, like I will show you with Dushan diamond by diamond what we can do with advanced.
So yeah, now I'm working as a technical consultant for lab-grown diamond factory. I help companies choose the right kind of reactors, the right technology according to their target growth. And yeah, all right. So we'll start with the MPCVD technology. This will be a basic overview of how the MPCVD reactor looks and works. So here you can see reaction chamber. You have to put like a diamond seeds on in this reactor inside the reactor, and the microwave is powered from the top. It comes down and it creates the plasma ball here, and you insert hydrocarbons which will be used as a carbon source, and carbon will be deposited layer by layer on top of diamond. And this is how basic CVD technique is. This is a typical CVD reactor. It's a 6 kilowatt top-down system. We call it cylindrical type reactors. So this is like a visualization of different stages of growth. Here on the left side, you can see the holders. We call it substrate holder. And you place number of seeds on the substrate holder, and you ignite the plasma and start the deposition process. Here you can see the seeds in the first few hours, and after a few days, it starts to grow layer by layer. It's like almost like a 3D printing of carbon on top of diamond substrate. Here you can see the slice of CVD diamond, which can be used again as the seed. So you can recycle your own diamond as the seed. Here you can see the coring of the diamonds. So whenever the diamond grows, it has this black polycrystalline outer layer. Usually in most of the recipe, some recipe doesn't have it, but usually you'll have to remove the black polycrystalline and get your single crystal cube here. And that cube can be cone faceted using lasers or manual bruting systems into a more near diamond shape. And after that, you can have your full cutting polishing diamond just as a natural diamond process. So here you have this CVD type 2A seed substrate. So seeds are pretty important in how you grow the diamonds. The type of seeds and the quality and the surface of the seeds, the internal defects, inclusions, stress levels, everything counts in how you how your ultimate product will be. So this is how it looks while growing. The left side is the start of the growth, and the right side is after a few days. You can see the diamond is grown to at least like 2 to 3 millimeters. So this is as grown single crystal diamond as comes out from the reactor. You can see the seeds reflections here at the bottom.
Somehow, because Tom Chatham was the only source for us to do our experiments and research, we have in our first edition, we have here Tom diamonds. In our second edition, because
2007, yeah.
2007, yeah, second edition of laboratory grown diamonds, because it was possible to find melee fancy color diamonds. We develop a system for identification of mounted melee synthetic diamonds using fluorescence. That is valid still, and so many companies and black boxes are using this method still today. And finally, in 2020, where else on our cover page are Tom stones? And my introductory question for Tom today is, we know, Tom, that these days, in the last few days, you are looking for something really big and expensive, you know. And maybe we will deconcentrate you, but still I have to ask you something relatively simple, you know. How you feel in this new era of laboratory-grown diamonds? How is going your business now, and how you see the future of laboratory-grown diamonds? Please, Tom.
Well, that's a nice, simple question. Well, as you've described, my history with my family and my father and the work that he started back as a very, very young man, a young boy, actually. He had this passion for chemistry, and he followed it throughout his life. I joined him in 1965 to just get a job. I did not have his intellect. He was definitely a genius. Even with my majors being chemistry and math in college, he just ran circles around me, and he hadn't been in school in 30, 40 years. His passion, though, his number one passion was creating diamonds. That's what he wanted to do. He was never successful. He followed certain rules of chemistry that we have now found are not quite true, and that is the laws of thermodynamics. And I have literally files 4 inches thick of communications from people over the years trying to get my father to try new approaches to growing diamonds. And if it did not follow the laws of thermodynamics, my father would have nothing to do with it. Of course, CVD has turned that whole thing upside down. I started with diamond purely by accident. I was in Novosibirsk chasing down some of my emerald competitors in 1993.
I'm no gemologist. I have no ideas about grading. That's what I have Branko for. I'm engineer and toolmaker. I have a lot of experience how to construct HPHT presses and how to operate them, how to optimize them. And as I am with Algodanza for the last 13 years, in fact, I'm also responsible for the production in Switzerland. In the moment, we have about 12 presses, which are operating 24 hours a day throughout the year. And let's go ahead. What are memorial diamonds? Memorial diamonds, the definition is not fixed, but laboratory-grown diamonds which consist partially or completely of carbon from human or animal origin. Both exist, both happen, and they can all be made during lifetime or afterwards from different sources, which is hair, ashes, and also combination. They can be, as I said, from human or animal origin, and usually they have a very, very high intrinsic value. The intrinsic value is definitely higher than the material value. I don't know how much you learned in the former webinars, but CVD diamonds go at $200, $300, and our price is definitely higher. Why this is so, I show you in the coming slides. They are used for a lot of momentous occasions like birth, celebrations, engagements, weddings, and funerals also. How to grow memorial diamonds? Memorial diamonds are usually grown on HPHT presses. What I would like you to remember after this webinar is that it's not enough to have HPHT presses. It takes a lot more, definitely a lot. Because first of all, you have to prepare your source. You have to extract the carbon. You have to purify it with acids. Within the process, you have also partial conversion into carbon dioxide and back. You have to graphitize it at about 2,800 degrees Celsius under vacuum. which requires real advanced technologies. And it's not that easy to have this preparation, but it's definitely essential, because otherwise the diamond wouldn't grow in the growing cell. You have to transform the turbostratic amorphous carbon into neatly packed graphite layers to start the process. And what you also need is a lot of communication. You need to have logistics, sending the source, the carbon from the customer to your facility and the diamond back. You have full documentation, cutting, polishing, inscription, certification, and. So prerequisite number one, of course, is the facility. As I said already, it's not sufficient to have HPHT presses alone. What you see in the middle is our type. We designed with a German company and are constantly improving and optimizing their very robust systems. But you also need on the left side chemical laboratory with experts who are well trained in the use of acids and know what they're doing. On the top right hand side, you also need some equipment and workshops for preparation of the growing cell. The growing cell of HPHT, some are familiar with this, of you, consists about roughly 20 pieces. We make them all on our own, in Swiss quality at Swiss prices, of course.
The first man-made diamonds were produced in 1953 by a Swedish company, ACR. The lead researcher, von Platen, for the purpose of diamond synthesis, designed and developed special multi-angle split sphere apparatus where he could create and sustain necessary pressure and temperature for diamond synthesis. But unfortunately, the company decided to do not publish the results for commercial reasons. And then in 1954, the research team in General Electric demonstrated diamond synthesis, which is widely considered today as the first man-made diamond demonstration. Another type of high-pressure apparatus was developed specifically for this synthesis, which is called belt apparatus. And after the worldwide advertised achievement, General Electric successfully commercialized industrial diamond productions. And I'd like to emphasize this message for you, that the key to success of making first diamonds in the lab was the development of specialized equipment. In case of Sweden, it's multi-angle split sphere apparatus. In case of General Electric, it's belt apparatus, which allowed to work at continuous pressures and temperatures sufficient for the graphite to diamond transformation. Now, let's try to understand how high pressure, high temperature diamond synthesis works from the point of view of thermodynamics. Let's look at the carbon phase diagram and zoom in this area where diamond synthesis is conducted using molten metal solvent catalysts, usually alloys of metals from our group of iron. It is necessary to melt the solvent catalyst first to dissolve graphite. This is why we need to be in a phase diagram at temperatures to the right of this line. We'll place graphite together with metal catalyst inside of the reactor. Then put this reactor in the high pressure apparatus and apply high pressure below this equilibrium line and heat to melt the metal. What will happen? Graphite will dissolve in the molten metal like sugar dissolving in the hot water. Eventually, it will saturate solution, creating saturated carbon solution. in the liquid metal. And nothing more can happen. When we release the temperature and pressure, we will find out the same graphite inside the reactor. We'll place graphite with metal at pressures above the equilibrium line. We melt the metal, and graphite is dissolved in the liquid, saturating the solution. And what is next? We will find out that diamonds start to precipitate and grow from the solution. How and why it happens? We already know that at these pressures, the free energy of diamond is lower than of graphite. System wants to move to the low energy state. It is shown in this equation. This is called supersaturation, which creates the driving force for diamond to nucleate and grow in the solution. And how does diamond synthesis happen in practice? Let's remember that synthesis is driven by the difference of diamond and graphite free energies at high pressures and temperatures. The typical charge for diamond synthesis consists of alternated layers of graphite and solvent catalyst placed in a high pressure reactor. The first step of the process is application of high pressure to the reactor. Then the charge is heated to the point where metal can be melted. And when metal melts, let's zoom in this area, graphite dissolves in it, and very quickly multiple diamond crystals nucleate and grow inside the melt.
And you can see that by far, 1 carat is the most popular, the most common size category that we see. Other interesting things to note here is that in the 1/4 to 1/2 carat size, HPHT is much more common. And then over 1.5 into 2 carats and above, we see more CVD grown diamonds. When we talk about Meli, which is not included in these graphs, but Meli, the vast majority of Meli 2 points and below is HPHT grown. From 5 points and up, you see both CVD and HPHT grown, but most Meli that you see, even I should say even below 1/4 carat, mostly it's going to be HPHT grown. However, we have seen as small as 1/2 point CVD grown diamonds when we're doing our screening process. Okay, so the next chart that we have here, this is shape distribution. And of course, it's no surprise that rounds are dominating in terms of shape. So when we exclude rounds, we can better see the distribution of the other shapes. It's interesting to see how popular ovals are. And actually, I thought it was interesting to see how cushions and radiants were not as popular as I would have thought. Then when we were looking at this data, I was very curious to know how much the growth method impacts the shape. And surprisingly, there's really no difference. CVD grown, HPHT grown, 63, 65% are round, brilliant cut, and then the rest are fancy shapes. But then we were thinking that doesn't actually show what we see this year in our lab. So we excluded the other years and looking only at submissions in 2020 in over the 75 carat sizes, we see that fancy shapes have become much more popular, with taking a 60% share of all the shapes. Okay, so now we're going to go into some clarity characteristics of diamonds. In these graphs, we can see the distribution of HPHT grown and CVD grown. So lab-grown diamonds actually can occur in any clarity. However, we see very, very few flawless stones. It's difficult to grow, and very few I3 stones. So what we see here really is the sweet spot of VS1 to SI1. And this directly reflects what producers are able to produce, what they can produce in mass, and where the consumer demand is. So when we discuss the inclusions that we see in lab-grown diamonds, the environment in which the diamond grows is directly reflected in the inclusions we observe. So these photos here were taken in the Diamond View instrument. And you can see that the first photo on the left, the natural diamond, has a very complicated growth. This is natural diamonds, and natural diamonds are very complicated and occur in so many different growth environments and over so much time and with different impurities. They're very complicated. Then we look at the HPHT grown, and it's a cubo-octahedral. It's very geometric. It's a very blocky type of a pattern that we see. It's grown in molten metal flux, so that's the type of inclusions that we're going to see. And then CVDs have a very layered growth, right? They are growing in layers. And around the edges of the CVD crystal, we see this polycrystalline diamond. And so all these things, as we go through the inclusions, you're going to see that their growth environment directly impacts the inclusions. So in CVD diamonds, the most common inclusion we see are clouds, crystals, pinpoints, some feathers, and graining. So in these pictures, you can see planar clouds. These are most easily visible through the pavilion in most cases. In this case, it's kind of a heavy cloud with dark black inclusions throughout. And this is remnant of the layered growth. So as it's growing, there's a stop-start cycle. So they grow the CVD in layers. Sometimes they have to stop the growth, clean the machine, and then restart the growth. And during this start-stop process, we end up seeing these layered planar clouds.
Here we see something, one lot that came to me in 2013, melee stones, where I found, using my systems, where I found synthetics versus natural diamonds, and I publish this in, I think, in Rappaport. It was a report about this finding. And when we started, Branko and me, and also our colleagues with the Sherry in EGL in 2002, the situation was much easier for us. They are doing identification, because on the synthetic side, like we didn't have a colorless synthetic laboratory grown diamonds. We didn't have also in CVD, we didn't have so many colors, except the brown that in 2003, I think so, when Apollo, Mr. Linares brought us one stone, and this is actually our first contact with the CVD diamonds. And of course, identification was also so easy that with the magnet we used to identify stone. Not only, but actually it was beginning, you know, how we start to learn, also using some of advanced scientific instrument. In 2016, or from 2016, we have already all colors except treated brown and the HPHT brown, what has no sense, does not exist. And because of this identification, because here when we are talking about synthetics, we don't talk only about as grown stones, what are dominating. We are talking also about treated laboratory grown diamonds that could create problems during identification. So identification methods that has to be available, except this simple black box identification, are following. We are using microscopy, of course. On the beginning, the second step will be photoluminescence imaging, how we call fluorescence. In microscopy, we will check inclusions, also cross-polarized filters. We will see internal structure of the given stones. The third step will be UVVs, near-infrared spectroscopy, And on the end, this is a photoluminescence spectroscopy that that could give us final result. Anyway, our rule, the basic rule, is to make decision using at least two of those methods. What we are looking, there are different optical centers in diamonds, and for example, there are so many. For example, here is Optical Property of the Diamonds book of the Alexander Zaitsev, famous like a Bible for us, that we are also using, because the number of the optical centers is almost endless, And that's how we are separating not only natural from synthetic, also natural from the treated, also laboratory grown, as grown or treated.
Also, Dusan, you can mention about the stone we put in the book about combination of types, and maybe a little bit more about other possibilities. With the high temperature growing diamonds, they can be not only type 2A, it could be creating some of the type 1 diamond, correct?
Yes, of course. Depends on the amount of the nitrogen that the growers allowed to enter the diamond during the growth. After that, this single nitrogen can be aggregated, and it is starting from type 1AA up to Cape stone. It could be done, and creation of the optical centers characteristic for natural diamond, it is possible to create. But again, it is a matter of the time and matter of the money that has to be invested for commercial. I don't think that something like this will be happen. But for example, it could be with someone who has ability to do this. They can do this from time to time just to check laboratories. Are they so picky? Are they really checking a stone or just screening a stone?
Yes. Dusan, where and when can we buy your product? She means patent. I think it's not possible to buy it, but hopefully.
No. It has a sense. It has a sense, really, Gina, because actually, how came to this when one big company, one of the largest, when they started with their line of jewelry with the laboratory grown diamonds, they sent me the whole line and just asked me, like, we are suspicious that we have a natural stone mixed with the laboratory grown. What happened during the setting? The setter just didn't know what he's setting inside. Of course, I found the natural stone between lab grown, and then I start to think, how to make this like easy for producer to give, and came to this pink fluorescence. Okay, just if you excite, all have a pink fluorescence, that's okay. All are laboratory grown. And I started with this idea. I wanted to sell this method and patent to this company. They didn't decide, but then came someone else, one smaller guy who has their own production, and he is interested just to sign their stones with the pink fluorescence. He will say, okay, my stones, they have a pink fluorescence.
So it's about fluorescence and certification of laboratory grown diamonds. Not possible to cover everything in the book because it's quite big, 188 pages, but I'll try to give you some glimpse into what we did and what I'm doing here in Canadian Gemological Laboratory. 11 years. We do a lot of certification of diamonds, and I can imagine a lot of Canadian diamonds, other gemstones as well, a lot of research. And this is on the right, just example. This is not happening last year or two a lot. This is 4-carat laboratory grown diamonds came for identification, and because we also do appraising, I have another person, Angelina, she will help me with appraising. And it's happening now regularly, lab grown diamonds. You will see the more examples later. So it's more challenging in the rings, of course. And Branko Gems is my new venture that I'm doing more education, more research with Elena on rough diamonds and other topics. And with George Spirimilous from Greece, very happy to do Mediterranean German Jewelry Conference. And Dusan was one of the speakers 2016 in Spain. And we have also some Spanish friends tonight listening to us. So I'm very happy the book reached Spain, reached many countries. And we do a lot of promotions and books, instruments on the Branko Gems website. So what I will do? I will do approximately 25 minutes, I promise not more, on background of diamond types. This is something we put in the book as a first background. We didn't change background at all because we couldn't invent something better. And we are then going into standard instruments for screening, and I will touch on fluorescence and talk about what we do in the laboratory, not only me, other labs with the visible photoluminescence, fluorescence, and other infrared spectroscopy. I'll show you a few certs, what I'm doing here, summarize, and then you're welcome to ask questions. And in the second part, it will be more about the instruments. I cannot cover everything. I'll cover maybe 3-4 instruments that I'm using here in the laboratory regularly. So, diamond types. It's covered in the previous webinars, but I always like to remind on this slide from our booklet that diamonds do contain nitrogen, type 1A, and this is mostly natural diamonds. I can say 97, 98% of them are type 1A. They could be also type 1B natural, quite rare. We can say maybe 1% or less. On the contrary, lab-grown diamonds are almost all of them type 2A, could be also 1B, single nitrogen. They're relatively young diamonds grown in a few days. And there could be a blue type 2B, synthetic, naturally very, very rare, 0.1%, but they could be grown in a laboratory with addition of boron. This is something to remember, and many instruments in the market are based on this separation of these. Are they type 1, or they're referring to type 2, mostly type 2, but also there's also one special type, we call it 1AB, that also is transparent to UV light. This is something to remember when you're using instruments. There's always limitations of each instrument. And here is a table that we explain more in the book, but I'll just highlight few things in bold. You can see here, difference between natural, HPHT grown, and CVD grown. The main differences, of course, but what we are highlighting today is fluorescence. Not all diamonds fluoresce. Maybe 30% of them fluoresce, but when they fluoresce, most of them, or 90-95, are blue. Could be other colors. And fluorescence, if it's there, it's long UV is at least 1 degree, sometimes 2 degrees stronger. It's a little bit different or opposite in HPHT grown diamond. When they fluoresce, and many do, short UV is 1-2 degrees stronger, and they also phosphoresce, especially, let's say, those that contain more boron, they fluoresce more. And the coralless or blue diamonds could fluoresce and contain boron. CVD grown is a bit more challenging. Why? Because they could fluoresce, and I can show you some pictures. And the first picture that I show you on the first slide was from CVD grown diamonds from Greece, that they fluoresce 1 degree stronger. But what I see lately, and we are both aware of this, that some CVD diamonds do not fluoresce, or could be very similar, even equal fluorescence or short UV, long UV. Let's be careful not to use this only one test when you are checking lab-grown diamonds. That's why at the end, in the laboratory, we do look for impurities. So in natural diamonds, nitrogen is very common as a pairs, type 1, and HPHT grown is a single nitrogen, or could be also type 2, and other impurities. And in CVD, we have a hydrogen and silicon as a major impurities. We're looking at all these defects with advanced instruments. We will, of course, first use a loupe or microscope to look at the inclusions, and if the metallic is great, but very often they're clean. If you see some amorphous carbon, CVD, great, but very often they're clean. So fluorescence is very important. If long UV is stronger, of course, we'll double check with birefringence. Dusan was talking about this last webinar, cross-polarized filters, to make sure they're natural. If short UV is stronger and they phosphoresce, they're most probably HPHT grown. We'll double check it. No cross-polarized filters under microscope or under you can even use a loop and cross-polarized filters if diamond is big. And become complicated when it's non-fluorescence and when this pattern that we call tatami natural diamonds resemble a pattern in a CVD diamonds. Could be, especially when CVD diamonds are treated HPHT enhanced, this pattern could look very similar. I think Dusan puts very nice pictures in the book on cross-polarized filters. As you can see, these differences when diamonds are exposed to higher temperature, they become to look more like a natural. So when it's a non-fluorescence and they look like a, could be natural, could be CVD, we're not sure, then we need to really go to these advanced instruments, laboratories, or now become more and more portable advanced instruments available, price of $3,000 to $10,000. So it's possible to buy them even for the appraising. Then we go to check if type 2A. If the yes, we need to do more tests, spectroscopy to check minor defects like silicon nickel. We tell it's CVD or HPHT, or look at the growth patterns, what is diamond view, or other instrument to look at the internal structure. And then separate at the end into these two categories.
Anyway, with the introductions over, can we move on to our discussion? And after the huge impact that COVID-19 had last year and is still unfortunately having, we clearly have a lot of questions to ask and issues to address. It's a no-brainer that last year necessitated a change in the way we do business. Consumer behavior rapidly changed as consumers embraced the convenience and the need to shop and order online, as well as the benefits of click and collect and virtual appointments. I'd like to call on Rob, please, to speak to the first question, which is, how do you see the state of the diamond market currently? With light at the end of the COVID tunnel 19, there's been a rise in diamond trading and activity and in diamond jewelry sales. Do you expect that to continue to happen in the coming months? Rob, over to you.
Thank you, Albert. I appreciate it. Let me just, the book is A Murder is Forever. It's a diamond district novel. Check it out. Hope you've enjoyed and find it fun. That's the end of my plug. I think things are actually getting better, and I think there's a much better mood in the market. I think the industry came through this weird period probably better than it expected. Obviously, you know, a lot of people, not everybody did great, but I think it was actually better than expected. The industry kind of line that's being put out is that, there does seem to be some truth to it, that discretionary dollars are now, that used to be spent for travel, are now being spent for diamonds, that people want meaningful gifts. So that's all extremely positive. One interesting thing is that you're seeing people go to jewelers in a more deliberate way. Like I had one diamond dealer tell me that just about every memo call sold, which was like very rare. You know, it's like because if you're going to send a diamond, if somebody requests a diamond, chances are the person coming in has basically decided to buy it, because that's, because people are shopping very deliberately. And I think actually the lab grown diamond market, I think there was concerns over that too. I think, in a lot of ways, the big issue there is supply, and the fact that supply was disrupted probably helped stabilize that market a bit. It certainly had a little bit of a panic in part of the year, just like the natural diamond market did. So I think overall, it seems like it's much better under control, and the vaccines are under control. But we're all hopeful for a better year this year, and I think people are going to be, by the summer, hopefully people will be ready to go. And I mean, the thing is, one of the things I want to stress is that you know, even if this is a good time for people to buy diamonds because there's a meaningful and you know, we're not losing any competition to the travel industry, diamonds have to be promoted, and that's both lab grown and natural. You know, people have to know that diamonds exist. People aren't sitting around thinking about diamonds. So I think it's very important as an industry to get our message out in a positive way, which we'll obviously talk about in a bit.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Turning to the other panelists, if anybody else would like to speak to that question, please feel free. If not,
I could speak to that just quickly. On VDB,
sure.
We definitely saw a rise in activity, you know, because we are a marketplace. So we track the activity that's happening, and we have both mined and lab grown. So obviously when March hit, March, April, May, things slowed down, but we really started seeing June, activity started to rise. I would say for us, actually, surprisingly, the 2 big months where activity was really high was July and October. Really high volume going on there, but overall throughout the year, things were rising. And speaking to our retailers, they were obviously pleasantly surprised. I think a lot of us were. So we have a lot to be grateful for. And thankfully, a lot of people were coming out and spending some of their dollars within our industry.
Now, the 3 real benefits of lab grown, number 1 is color. Without a doubt, you cannot compete with the 2 price tags of a natural fancy and a colored stone. Imagine a beautiful red grown stone to almost any carat weight. That is an advantage. Leverage color. Don't be competing in white, in my opinion. The second is custom. If I buy a custom suit, I'm not going to return it. There's no returns. I'm ordering, or in the words of a friend of mine, Mr. Valentine, it's a virgin diamond. You're making a diamond custom to someone, so it could be a no return policy. That's a great benefit. The third real benefit of lab grown diamonds is the type. Every single CVD diamond that's ever been produced and will ever be produced is a perfect diamond. It's a type 2A diamond, one of the most rare of natural diamonds. We cannot make an imperfect diamond. It is literally a perfect diamond. Now, I'm not saying to try to leverage, again, I'm all about a non-biased approach to bring people together, but this is a very interesting aspect that maybe the people at Lab Grown should be thinking more about. So is it a truce or turmoil? It's been a whole lot of turmoil, in my opinion, but we can fix that together as an industry. It doesn't have to be diamonds versus diamonds. It should be diamonds and diamonds.
The Cullinan diamonds actually come from somewhere between 700 and 800 kilometers below the surface of the Earth. So they are really remarkable things and works of nature. So the GIA have in fact included a definition now called clipper, which may well appear on their GIA diamond certificates, which the clipper is an acronym for these qualities: Cullinan-like, inclusion poor, pure, irregularly shaped, and resorbed. So these are the kinds of qualities and characteristics of diamonds that are discovered in nature, which, to my mind, really does distinguish them and set them apart from diamonds that are manufactured, whether we call them lab grown or manufactured diamonds or synthetic. It's very important to remember that there are benefits to the mining of natural diamonds, particularly in countries like Africa, where we, for example, and I can talk about South Africa, we have natural resources. We don't have a lot of water, and so the exploitation of these natural resources brings huge benefits to the whole population. And in terms of the population, just to give you some idea of scale, we have around 70 million people in South Africa. I think there are around 16 million of whom pay tax. So diamond mining and other mining provide huge employment benefits and livelihoods to many, many people. The other thing they do is they bring about skills and education of these people. Now, skills that are applied to mining, for example, electricians, mechanics, and so on. I don't know what we used to talk about at these gemological conferences before, because today we go to gemological conferences and practically everything is about the machines and the machinery that we use to detect the difference between the two. And I must say, Branko and Dusan have done an extraordinary job in educating people on this, which is quite important. So I think where laboratories are involved and certification is involved, there's no difficulty with the diamonds.
That's our manufacturing assembly line in New Jersey, building several reactors over here. And that's our test facility. So before the machines are packaged and shipped to our customers worldwide, we actually test these machines over here. And the video that follows is really a snapshot of one of the growth cycles that we do during testing. The first step for a growth process, of course, is seed preparation, slicing it to uniform size and thicknesses, and making sure they're good clarity and cleaned in acid and alcohol. This is showing a typical layout of the seeds on the moly discs as the growth starts. And the first step is to start the reactor. Get the plasma, get the vacuum first, get the plasma, and so on. So here's a short video showing a few seeds being loaded onto the machine. They've been pre-cleaned, the chamber's been pre-cleaned, and the moly discs have been pre-cleaned. Load your seeds in your determined formation, lock the chamber, and turn the process on. Pretty much, the process goes automated from here, creating the right conditions, right vacuum pressure of gases required to generate the plasma. And that's really the next step. After you close the chamber, the machine will automatically get the plasma started. There it is, the plasma got started. Of course, you need the right amount of gases, pressure, and other conditions to get the plasma started. Once the plasma turns on, next step is to get the right temperature. The diamond will start growing, or a good crystal will grow only at the right temperature. So the operator really just needs to adjust the temperature, of course, measure the temperature using a pyrometer. That is showing what the setup looks like once you've got the right temperature on the crystals. The machine has several viewports on top and sides to see how the crystals are growing. And here's a video showing what the crystals look like once the right temperature is reached. Once you have the right temperature, just start the right process gases. Let the computer take over and run the process over several hours, probably several weeks, to grow the crystals. And all you do in this time is really just supervise the system, making sure all the parameters are running good, nothing unusual is happening in the reactor.
Hello everyone, my name is Darshan Shah from DM Gens Group. And before we start, I would like to thank Lucent Simic for giving us this opportunity of showing the process of cutting and polishing of lab-grown diamonds. Well, as you may know, cutting and polishing of diamonds is same as mined diamonds coming over the years, still traditional, but there have been really good improvements with the technology being used and the process which is much faster than before. So, well, as we know that we are giving this presentation or video on cutting and polishing lab-grown diamonds. Diamonds, as you know, CVDs, they come in cubic form and they still go through poly removal. But if you see the stone, you still can see there's a lot of poly around. Well, after even the poly removal is done, the stone goes through planing, then after planing it goes through laser curving, then again planing, blocking and then final polishing. So this stuff has to go through planing first. I'll show you the planing part. Come with me. As you can see, once the poly removal is done with laser curving, the stone is mapped and planned. You can see here the way it is paid for planning, and the multiple offcuts and the main stone coming out of this particular rough. This is how it is planned. From here, after planning is confirmed, it goes for laser curving. Once the stone is planned and marked, you can see the marking line going through. It is set on a setup station for laser curving to remove the extra areas and to remove the inclusions. Now let's go for the laser curving part. Once the stone is set into a die, it goes to the laser machine where again it is set with the point to start and the point to end in a laser. Once that is set, it is curved. It takes around approximately 15 to 20 minutes to curve one single side. Once the stone is set and curved and the extra area has been removed, this is how it looks. Once the stone is curved, you can see all the extra areas have been removed from here. There are still a few extra areas which are then processed on a diamond scale. You can see after removing everything, the stone has been planned for a carat approximate weight. Now let's go for the blocking process. As you saw, as the laser curving is done, now we have to go through the blocking process. This is how we block. We still use the traditional tops to block it, as it is handy and easier to block the stones. After blocking, which is half blocked, it goes to bruting. As you may see in here, the stone with the diameter is set and it starts bruting. Well, the traditional way has gone now, but the way the machine works and the basics of the machine to work are still traditional. Once the stone is bruted, it is again sent for scanning to see the maximum still yieldable stone from the blocked material and bruted material. This is how the final result would be, and then it goes for final polishing. In final polishing, this is the latest tools that we use and the tops we use, wherein each and every parameter, every symmetry is taken care of, and all the facets are faceted in a very particular way to yield a triple excellent round cut stone.
It was in a very middle ground. I mean, people had not heard too much about it, but there were still some goods available, and most of the goods that were available now were the larger sized roughs from Russia, which were probably 1 carat to 8 carat in size. You had the very small sizes for the melees coming from China, which were probably 10 stones per carat to 40-50 stones per carat. And you had the CVD roughs, which were coming from Singapore and the US. So as you can see on the screen, we had the roughs coming in different colors. The blues were there, the yellows, oranges were already there. We had the whites coming in and the pinks also. So this was the initial beginning into the actual growth of the industry. This is also the time when the race between the HPHT and the CVD started. With the HPHT, you had thousands of presses available, which just needed to be retrofitted in order to grow the larger roughs versus the smaller powders that were traditionally grown on them. And you also had the CVD technology, where the machine, the installed capacity wasn't really there. They were started to grow now. So there was this race between which was a better technology. So I remember in one of my trips to China, one of the largest HPHT growers in China, the head of research, he came up to me and asked me, Shreyans, which is better, HPHT or CVD? And somehow he was skeptical about the HPHT growth process, and he thought that because of the so many installed capacity of the HPHT presses, it would be a very competitive business. So he was keenly thinking about investing in the CVD side of the technology, and started wanting to grow in CVD technology. And it took me I had to go to great lengths to convince him that he had thousands of presses in his backyard, and instead of going to CVD, HPHT is what he should be looking at in terms of growing and mass growth of lab-grown diamonds. And luckily, he did stick to it. And right now, he's one of the largest growers of HPHT-grown rough diamonds. As I said, most of the roughs in the CVD were the larger roughs in white color, pink color. And from HPHT, they were the smaller roughs. So now we had a scenario where the melees were there, the larger goods were there, and the only issue was having those intermediate sizes of 10 pointers to 50, 60 pointers, which was very difficult to grow using the CVD process. It was a fantastic announcement. They said it was going to be a fashion jewelry brand. I think this announcement, in my view, has hastened the growth of the industry by at least 2 to 3 years. With this, I think everyone, even the larger players in the mined diamond industry who were earlier apprehensive about entering the lab-grown space, were now looking forward to getting a pie into the cut in the pie. Also, with this announcement, a lot of big companies, they had announced their plans to enter the industry.